I drive a taxi from midnight to 6 a.m. 3 years ago, a passenger asked me if grief gets easier. I told her it gets different. Now every hospital fare gets the same question. Do you want me to take the long way? I drive a taxi from midnight to 6 a.m. 3 years ago, I picked up a fare at the hospital on Vine at 3:20 a.m. A woman got in and gave me an address. At a red light, I looked in the mirror. She was crying without sound. No shaking, just water running down her face like she'd turned something on and couldn't find the off. I didn't say, "Are you okay?" That question doesn't work at 3 a.m. I said, "Do you want me to take the long way?" She looked up, met my eyes in the mirror. "Yes, please." I took the long way. Added 20 minutes. Drove through the park loop where the streetlights make the trees gold. When we arrived, she sat for a minute. Then she said, "My father just died." I said, "Mine died in 2019. Same hospital, different room." She said, "Does it get easier?" I said, "It gets different. The grief doesn't shrink. Your life just grows around it." She said, "Can I tell you his name?" Edmund. Terrible cook. Could fix anything. I said mine was Virgil. Couldn't fix anything, but could make you laugh while it stayed broken. She almost smiled, paid, got out, walked inside. That was the first one. Over 3 years, I noticed a pattern. The 3 a.m. hospital pickups were different. People leaving hospital parking lots in the middle of the night weren't going home. They were leaving something behind. They needed the drive to be longer than the route. So I started asking every time, "Do you want me to take the long way?" Most said yes. A man told me his wife's last joke. She was on morphine and said, "If the food here is what heaven's like, I'd rather go to hell." He laughed and cried at the same time in my back seat. A woman said her son was 6 and drew their family that morning. She kept it in her pocket all day and was afraid to take it out because she didn't want tears on it. A teenager said his grandmother called him the wrong name for 2 years from dementia, but on her last day, she said his real name and closed her eyes. He said it was the best and worst thing he'd ever heard. I never wrote any of it down. These weren't my stories. They were lent to me for a cab ride and I gave them back when the door closed. But I carried the feeling. Being the last stranger someone talks to on the worst night of their life, that's a specific trust. You don't earn it. You just happen to be driving the right car at the right time with the right question. Last month, a woman got in at the hospital holding a newborn. I said, "Boy or girl?" "Girl." "What's her name?" We hadn't decided. My husband and I had it narrowed down, but then she stopped. He didn't make it. He was in the room next to mine. Car accident on the way to the hospital. He was coming to be there for the birth. He never met her. I said, "Do you want me to take the long way?" "Yes." We drove 40 minutes. She told me about her husband Piers. Sang in the shower so badly their neighbor knocked on the wall. Assembled the crib twice because he took it apart to make sure he could do it faster in an emergency. Picked a name months ago, but wanted her to think it was her idea. What name? He wanted Wren, because wrens are small and loud and show up every morning no matter what. She looked at the baby. "I think her name is Wren." When we arrived, I said, "This one's on me." She said, "You don't have to." I said, "You just named your daughter in my cab. That's the most important thing that's happened in this car." She said, "Can I bring Wren to meet you someday?" I said, "I'm here every night. Same shift." She got out, holding Wren against her chest, turned around. "Thank you for the long way. I'm still driving. Same shift, same question. I leave the meter off on hospital runs now. Everyone. Because someone's going to get in my cab on the worst night of their life, and the last thing they need is to watch a number climb while their world falls apart. The least I can do is give them the long way home.